We just celebrated Thanksgiving here in this country, which is a national holiday. It's a cultural holiday. Um, Whether you subscribe to it or not, it's celebrated nationwide. And it's just, I don't know if sad or ironic is the word that I'm looking for, but we just had this holiday that's celebrated with a big feast. And so many Americans are hungry. And this was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, you talk about the richest country in the world, a $20 trillion economy the U.S. has, a 20 trillion, with a T, trillion-dollar economy, had 40 million people that were food insecure, which doesn't even account for the 12 million or so children that are food insecure every day. Now this is before the pandemic. And food insecurity is, you've heard me speak about food deserts and things like that. Food insecurity is when you don't know where your next meal is coming from. You don't know if when you go home from school, you're going to have a meal. You don't know if when you come home from work, you're going to be able to feed yourself or your children. Or if you're going to have to choose between feeding your children and feeding yourself. This is food insecurity. And a lot of this is created in this place that we live by what we call food deserts. These are places that are at least 10 miles away from fresh food or fresh produce, fresh meat. Just because you have a little corner store or a gas station or a Dollar General, something like that, it's not a supermarket. It's not a food market. It's not a meat market. These are places that sell processed foods and frozen foods, which are not the best nutritionally for you or your children. And this creates problems. It's unbelievable that we live in such a rich country and these things go on. I mentioned about the 40 million people that were food insecure and the 12 million children. And that was before the pandemic. Now, since the pandemic, with the advent of COVID and the lockdowns and everything else, people losing their jobs, there are now about 54 million people, 54 million adults that are food insecure and living below the poverty line. 17 million children. It's crazy. It's estimated about 19 million people live in food deserts. Think about where you live. What's the closest supermarket to you? Not a gas station, not a little convenience store, a supermarket where you can buy fresh foods, fresh vegetables, fresh meat with a butcher. Think about it. Fresh milk. There are over 19 million people that live in these food deserts. Can't get to fresh food in the richest country on this planet in 2020. And we just celebrated a feast of Thanksgiving. As we speak, about 1 in 6 Americans is going hungry. And I think that's kind of a underestimation, but that's what the study says, 1 in 6. I mean, that is something to think about. We go about our lives, and if we are fortunate enough to not live in one of these places or be as affected by this pandemic, we lose track of how many people are food insecure. We lose track of the children that don't know if they're going to have a meal. People are now locked away and isolated. The money is drying up, and our children are suffering. They're watching the adults scramble and try and figure out what they're going to do for their next meal. Food banks are running out of funding. Rescue organizations are running out of funding. Restaurants are closing. And people are starving. One thing I want us to remember as people of color here in the Americas, this government has always failed us. So this thing that's going on right now is, as hard as it is on us, we have unfortunately gotten used to it and learned how to cope. And that's an ugly place to be. To be used to being starved to death, being used to being abused and neglected, while the Democrats and the Republicans and the Independents clamor for your votes or tell you why they're better. And none of this is changing. I just want to remind people that we have to pull together. We have to save ourselves. I'll give you a good example. Right here in Dothan, Alabama, there's only one mission house, one fully functional mission house in all of the Wiregrass, which is this Wiregrass area, this little southeast corner of Alabama, for those of you that are not here in Alabama. And that's Mama Tina's mission house over on North Alice. Now, for Thanksgiving, Mama Tina's mission house, she served about 750 meals on Thanksgiving. 750 meals. And on a daily basis, she serves 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner, for all that need and all that come. And that fluctuates from day to day, sometimes 50 to maybe 200, 300 meals per serving, whether it be lunch or dinner. And I have to mention Mama Tina's mission house because these are the types of things that we have to do. It is solely funded by donations, whether it be monetary, whether it be food, clothing, or time, because it takes people to prepare the meals and serve the meals as well. Mama Tina's also has a clothing pantry for those in need of clothing. So if you are in the Dothan area and you have gently worn clothing that you want to dispose of, or things that you can't fit anymore because you got fat during the pandemic, because a lot of us have put on weight with less activity, you can take them down to Mama Tina's right down on North Alice Street in Dothan, Alabama, and she will get them to those that are in need. Or if you are in need, you can get on down to Mama Tina's and get a meal, some clothing, and some direction, a good word, some prayer. But she is not the only place in this country that you can do that. But since I am here in Alabama, I will mention what is here in Alabama where I am at. And what I'm saying is we have to do things like this in our communities as a stopgap. Mama Tina's is not the answer, but it is definitely needed, and it is definitely something that services our community, especially our community where the government has failed us. So if there's a mission house or a soup kitchen or an organization that feeds a community where you are, I implore you to support them or point people in need to them. Most of these soup kitchens and mission houses, they run solely on donations and charity from people. Hey, Ms. Coates, how you doing? So we have to constantly pull together. JD in the house. All right. We have to work together. We have to take care of one another. Because if you think that just because we got 45 out and Biden is in, if you think for 1 minute it's going to change people's hunger, if you think it's going to change all of these things in our neighborhoods, you are sadly, sadly mistaken and delusional. I'm merely speaking facts, and I'm merely speaking pragmatically. I'm not, I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm saying that a politician is not going to solve our problems. This government that we have, that we live under now, has been in place for over 200 years, 270 some odd years. And we are still clamoring for food, and we are still clamoring for housing, for decent education. We are clamoring still for the things that we have never gotten after our so-called emancipation. So before I go all off into this tangent about the government, I just want to make it very clear. This problem is not going to be solved by the government. It's not going to be solved by charity alone. It's not. The charity that is given, the services that are given by these mission houses, these soup kitchens, these clothing closets, whatever you want to call them, they are merely a stopgap. They're there to stop people from going over the edge. It's not sustainable or practical that they can operate and fix the problem. Mama Tina's is only one. It's only one place in this wiregrass area. Thousands of people live here. She serves 750 meals, which is a lot on Thanksgiving. But how many people couldn't get to Mama Tina's that are in this area? How many people didn't know about it? And even if they did, if everybody showed up, could she feed them all? This is something we have to think about. This is something that we have to remember. Where there is a need, we have to fill it. We can't expect our oppressors or the colonizer to fix our problem, even though they created it. They will not fix it. They will not fix it. We have to remember that this country was built on genocide of an indigenous people. They were killed off and pushed off of this land. This land promised a home for all those that wanted to be free. Give us your free, you're tired, your huddled masses. Those yearning to be free is the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. Under the guise of citizenship. Now, if you are a citizen, your government is supposed to take care of its citizens. And we know that it has not, and will not, and does not. And this is why we must stand together as a people, and we must stand together with other people that are downtrodden, like the indigenous people of this place, the Native Americans, and any other people that were wronged and that are starved out. We are supposed to seek our reparations. We are. We have our own fight, but we have to stand in solidarity because there are more of us than it is of them. And we need people to understand that if we all stand together, we can all get what we need. Our fight is our fight, but we must stand in solidarity with those that are seeking the same things as us, and they must stand in solidarity with us. There's no easy or nice way to say that. People need to stand with us as well. There are, like I said, there are so many people right after Thanksgiving and right after Christmas that will starve after these giant feasts of whatever holiday or festival that you celebrate. And we forget that there are people, not in foreign countries. There are people next door to you, down the street from you, across town from you, that are starving. Right here in Bilton, we have an area called Tent City. It's under a bridge. It's a homeless encampment. It's out of the way. Most people don't even know about it, or they've heard of it, and it's no big deal. They don't see it, so they don't think about it. It's 2020. And we live in a country that has eating competitions. We live in a country where people go hunting on a full stomach. We live in a country that has over a $20 trillion budget. Economy, I should say. And people are starving. That is insane. The amount of food that this country wastes is insane.